Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to be documenting the week of Christmas in my project life, and I'm calling this Project Life Week 50-ish because I'm not quite keeping track of the week numbers in the same way that I was for a little while, and I think that I might have misnumbered some of them, but anyhow, this is the week that comes after the one that was called 50 and before the one that's called week 51. So if you're trying to follow along with my timeline, you're going to have a bit of a hard time because I am posting them backwards. I am narrating them. I got quite a bit behind in my video editing process, and rather than going back and trying to remember, I'm narrating them in reverse order because I can definitely remember what I scrapbooked the other day, and so anyhow, you'll see them in a different order, but hopefully that will be okay. So, as usual, I am starting with a whole bunch of photos here, and I'm just placing them out on my spread to get a sense of how they're going to fill up the space. And at this point, I don't know exactly which dates I'm going to be covering. This is a photo of a bug in my office, and I'm going to save that to tell that story another time. Definitely want to tell that story, but not quite yet. So here I'm trying to decide exactly how I'm going to spread these photos around so that they're not too dense in my Becky Higgins Design A page protectors. And so what I've decided to do is to add an insert. And so I have another little template here. I keep these templates on hand for being able to lay out these cards in a way that allows me to just kind of keep track of the space, and that way I know when I'm done because they're all filled. And I like this better than scrapbooking right into the page protector because I tend to change my mind and add things and change things around, so this is just a lot easier. Although I do run into some trouble once I start using the inserts because they do, when I move them aside, the photos all slide over and I lose my space, but that's okay. So basically this one, it looks like a full page protector here, this Design A. It's two sides of one insert. So it's going to be a half page. So it'll be one 4x6 on the top and one on the bottom. I'm just going to cut them apart. And I don't know why I didn't do this before because I have plenty of these templates and they're all full, and it makes more sense to do it this way. So yeah, basically I figured out which photos were going to go on that insert, and then I just put them up and I will scrapbook them a little bit later. Now this is the first thing that I definitely knew that I wanted to do. So that December wood veneer is from the December Documenter kit from Studio Calico, and so is the background card. And I just really liked how they looked together, so I just decided to add that. I'm not even going to say which week it is because I just, like I said, I've kind of lost track of which week is which, and my time is spanning across pages in an unusual way. Usually my weeks go from Monday to Sunday, and now it's Christmas time, and so nobody really keeps track of time the same way when they're off on vacation. So I have this photo of all the gingerbread houses in a row, and I'm using these letter stickers. I believe they're from Paper Person. They could be from Studio Calico, but I'm pretty sure they're from Paper Person. And I'm just spelling out the word gingerbread row. Just as using the word row as in, they're all in a row, but also sometimes that's the name of a street, at least around here. Like we've got a street called Dresden Row, and it's just a street with cute little houses on it. So I'm calling this gingerbread row, and I really like how these letters look on the wood spot on my table, and that works out really nicely. And in fact, I like it so much that's all I'm going to do with that one is just put the title there. But see how the title, now I have two titles right beside each other, so I'm just going to move it down because those two cards were way too similar. They both had words in the same spot on the bottom part, so just spreading them out like this gives my page a little bit more variety and interest. I do like to repeat elements, but not necessarily write side by side. So this is the stamp set from Studio Calico for this month, and I really love it. I do subscribe to their 6x8 stamp kit, and it's basically you just get a stamp. And I mean, sometimes I love the stamps and sometimes I really don't love the stamps. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to subscribe. I can't remember how long I subscribed for. I think it was the shortest commitment that you can commit to. So anyhow, we'll see. I might ditch this subscription in the new year. Who knows? But I think I'll keep the Documenter and the Traveler's Notebook kits because I really enjoy getting them. So I am storing my Traveler's Notebook sized embellishments that come with holes punched in them. Basically, this is all my Studio Calico embellishments. I keep them in this binder just because I don't love having to store that size of product. So that kind of helps me solve that problem. So I grabbed one of those labels from my stash from Studio Calico, and I'm just conditioning the stamp. This one says Family Fun, and I'm just stamping it. I'm going to use red ink. This is Real Red from Stampin' Up, and just stamping out that Family Fun from that stamp set. I really love that stamp. And I'm just using wax paper there so that the stamp doesn't stick to my mat. I didn't know where exactly I wanted to put it, so once Family Fun was on it, it was easier to decide where to put it, and it's just kind of covering their legs like that. And I will add a little something. It looks like that card isn't quite done yet, but I'm just going to leave it for now, but I'll come back to that one that says Family Fun. And I am scrapbooking in a slightly different order. So normally I have already picked the cards before I even start scrapbooking, but in this case I dove right into the scrapbooking part before I had chosen all of the cards. So now I'm just going back and picking some cards to go with each of these photos and stories that I want to tell. And as I select the cards, I'm keeping in mind ideas such as repetition. So if I have a splash of blue in one place, I want to try to have a splash of blue in another place. The same with reds and pinks and so on. So I'm trying to balance the colors across the page. I'm also keeping in mind that there's going to be an insert here. So some of these cards are going to be covered at various times. So I also kind of keep that in mind as well. So this is the first time I've done this, which is where I am designing this page with the insert in place. You can see the craft colored cardstock below the center photos there. That's the insert. And so underneath of that are the photos that will still be showing underneath of the insert when you flip it. Just looking through my products here, and I'm using a combination of recent months, so this would be November and December kits from Ali Edwards, from Studio Calico, and from Paper Person. I even have a little bit of Everyday Explorers in there, but I'm not going to use those things for today. My good friend Diane joined me for this process. She's a patron as well as a friend of mine, and I was scrapbooking and she just kind of popped in to keep me company and chatted with me a little bit. So I'm coming back to that card that I mentioned I wanted to fix a little bit, that one that says Family Fun, and it just needs a little something else. So I grabbed the December stamp sets for the Studio Calico Documenter kit and the Traveler's Notebook kits. They both come with these two stamp sets. I can't remember which came in which, but one of them included this round label. Now I'm not able to condition it. It is stamping with those little pooled bubbles, like the ink is pooling up on it, and I can't seem to get it conditioned. In fact, these stamps feel much different quality, and I'll say lower quality, like significantly noticeably lower quality than all of the other stamps in my whole collection. And I'm not sure if they recently changed or if I haven't noticed. I don't often use these stamps that come in these kits, so perhaps they've been like this for a while, but I'm just noticing today. But they're gummier and they're not as sticky to your block, and they pool up, like they don't condition well. I suspect they actually act a lot like acrylic stamps, and which I purposely don't buy because I don't like acrylic stamps. So I'm not sure if Studio Calico has changed to acrylic. I know there was a time when all of their stamps were photopolymer. But I will give them another month. I'm going to go back and check some of my other stamp sets and just see if it's consistent. And if they're going to be giving acrylic stamps or even just stamps that act like acrylic stamps, it's going to be hard for me to justify continuing a kit with them. I really like their cards, but you're paying for the stamp set, so I'd like it to be a good stamp set that I actually want to use. So anyhow, I'm doing the best that I can, and it's okay. I really like how it turned out. Like once I stamped it several times, I was able to get it kind of looking okay. But it took a lot of practice. I just added some red dots because it looked a little bit too bland. So I just took a little Crayola marker and added some dots. But I really like that little sprig of greenery with the label around it. And I just used one of my punches to punch it out and glue it onto the photo. These are all Studio Calico embellishments from the month of December. I've got these die cuts that I'm looking through right now. There's a sheet of chipboards. There's some labels. I love those green labels in all different shades of green. They're one of my favorite embellishments. There's also these chipboard hearts and arrows, and also a set of puffy stickers. So I'm going to layer a couple of embellishments behind this photo that I'm scrapbooking here. I couldn't find the perfect thing, so I just grabbed an assortment of things. I'm taking another one of those stamps. Again, it doesn't condition, so I'm just going to stamp it anyways. And it's dry, and I'm looking at it now, and it looks all right. So that little embellishment already said, "Let's get cozy." I used my gray Stampin' Up ink to stamp the house underneath of it. I'm just going to trim it down a little bit so it doesn't take up quite as much space. I want to see plenty of that beautiful pattern on the card behind. So just trimming it down so that it's a little bit more tight. And I can salvage those lines on the bottom part of that circle because it'll be all covered by the photo. So I'll just use that. And I actually do use it in another spot on this project, or maybe the next day I used it. I can't remember. Here's something I haven't done for a while, which is inking the edges of something. I just thought that outlining this would create too much distraction. And so I just used some pink ink from my stash and a little foam applicator and just inked the edges. I really like how that looks. I think I might try to do that a little bit more. I was a bit too generous with the adhesive there, so I had to pull it down. That Tombow dry adhesive is pretty forgiving. You can roll it around after you've put it on the card. And so I like how that looks. I could have inked around that little semicircle as well, the green one or mint or blue or whatever that color is, but I decided not to. I just didn't want it to be too matchy-matchy. So I want to spell out the name of the movie that we're watching. This is a selfie we took with the TV in the background. Annabelle, who is our international student who's staying with us this year, she introduced me to the Camp Rock series, and we watched part one and like the first movie and the second movie in one night. We just put on our pajamas and spent the whole evening watching movies together. It was really fun. Everybody else was out for the night, so it was a fun way for us to spend time. I'm just using my Hazel stamp set from Ellie's studio. Love this font. And just spelling out Camp Rock. It's a little wonky, but that's okay. It's one of the things that I like about hand stamping is that the letters look really kind of off. It just gives it a little bit more interest. And then that little blue chipboard piece just works really well there. It's going to come off, like it's not glued very well. It's going to come off, and I'll fix it a couple of times before it gets its way into the actual pocket. Now, I felt like this card that says "Let's Stay Inside" needed just a little something, but I wanted it to be pretty subtle. And so I was going to add some washi tape underneath. And then I decided to add these acrylic stars from my stash. They're just clear acrylic stars. And I'm using Tombow Mono Aqua glue. And this is usually a glue that I use for gluing paper to paper, but I think it'll do and it did. I thought it would do a fine job, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's staying fine. When you're gluing with liquid glue something that is completely clear like this, you just want to make sure that you cover the whole thing with glue, because if you put just a dab of glue, you'll see the circle of that dab, like you'll see the outline of it. So you just want to make sure that every surface area of the star is covered in glue before you glue it down. So I really love this stamp set because it comes with this little data card that is perfectly fit for stamping onto a 3x4-inch card, but I'm not going to do that for this. This would have been a good time to use that, but I would have had to have reprinted the photo a little bit smaller, and I didn't really want to do that. So I'm going to use a few other stamps from this stamp set instead. I'm using the This Is So Much Fun circle label stamp. I love these circle stamps. And yeah, this 6x8 one is fine. Like it doesn't have that lesser quality feel to it that the smaller 3x4 stamps have, even though it's the same brand. Like they're both Studio Calico and they're both December. So that's weird. I used one of my circle punches to punch that out. It was perfect. And now I just have to find a little something to put in the center of it. And I have these stamps from Paper Person and Everyday Explorers. I've got just a bunch of, these are all my foodie stamp sets. Kelly Perky here. And I'm looking for something that might be Italian food or noodles or bread, or we were at Eastside Mario's. So anything that's either just like generic food or something like that. I want something to stamp in the center of that circle, and I'd rather have it be an image. So I don't have anything exactly perfect, but from this Asian takeout stamp set that I have, there's this noodle bowl, and I thought that if I covered up the chopsticks, that the noodles might look like little heat waves, like steam rising from what might be just like a bowl of pasta. Anyhow, I'm not sure how pasta-like it looks, but it looks okay. I stamped it in a light green ink. I think it was pistachio. Let me check. It was mint macaron ink from Stampin' Up. Stampin' Up is the brand of colored dye ink that I use for almost all my projects. So if I don't say what ink I'm using and it's a colored ink, it's usually Stampin' Up. Just going to trim that down. And I really love how this card looks. It gives me some space there for some journaling as well, which I'm going to do next. So I'm just writing running errands with Liv before Christmas. We stopped at Eastside Mario's for lunch. And then I will underline this journaling just to anchor it and make it feel like it belongs on the card. And I will add it's going to be in a flippity flap, and not for, usually I use these are photo flips by Snap. And usually I use these to tell extra story or to fit extra photo, but in this case I'm using it strictly for design reasons. I really wanted to get that family favorites card into this spread, but I didn't have room for it, so I thought I'd put it underneath of this card and then just add a little bit of decoration to the back side of this photo. Now I'm pulling out, these are from Ali Edwards from, I think maybe the September kit or maybe the August kit. And it has this cute little gray tab on it. I like to put tabs on these photo flips just so that you know to flip it up. And it says These Joys. I use my tiny attacher to attach that. And now I'm just doing this card above it, which is just a basic grid card in blue. And my journaling here says, it seems like there were even more heyday activities than last year. Such a fun distraction to start and end my day. So the Heyday is a game that I've been playing for a bit over a year. It's just a cell phone game. It's not too, it's not very challenging or elaborate or anything, but it's just a fun little thing to do. I start and end my day. I don't play it. I haven't played it constantly for that year, but I kind of float in and out. My daughter plays it constantly, and I really do like to have something to relate to her with. And so that's one of my main reasons for playing it, is that she plays it and then we can help each other on our farms, and just, it's another way to stay connected to her. It's hard to be connected to teenagers. They've got their own stuff going on and they're always busy and stuff. But she always does it when she eats breakfast in the morning. So that gives me something in common with her. I just dropped my white ribbon. This is wrapping paper ribbon from IKEA. And it's just the outside. I dropped it in my cranberry sauce that I was eating. I don't normally eat when I scrapbook, and this is why. I thought that when I tied this ribbon, I was going to do a bow, and then I was going to do a knot, and then I did this kind of like 2 knots where I put an extra piece of paper, and I feel like it looks a little bit like a snowflake or a star, so I like how it looks for Christmas. I really like that paper ribbon quite a lot, and I'm glad that I have added it to my stash here after I finished wrapping presents with it. I added a couple, oops, there's my lunch. I do not usually eat while I scrapbook, but forgive me. I was absolutely starving, so I had to eat. I had no choice. Yeah, so here we go. Sorry about the distraction of the food. So now I'm working on the bottom 4x6 slot of my insert, of the right-hand side of my insert. And I'd like to put something on there that's just going to cover up that black part of the fireplace insert. And what I think I'll do is just layer a bunch of these Martha Stewart labels that I have in my stash. These are very old. I don't know if she still makes these. You used to be able to get them at Staples, and it's like a collab between Martha Stewart and Avery L. Is it Avery? No, just Avery, not Avery L. The company that makes the labels for your printer and stuff. So I just grabbed a random assortment with colors that are similar to the colors in this spread. So I love that the Studio Calico kit for December includes reds and pinks and greens and blues, just so many beautiful colors. It's so easy to pull stuff out of your stash when there's so many colors that are not necessarily traditional Christmas colors other than just the red, which I love red, so I use red all year long anyways. It just felt like a little bit of a weird assortment of labels, so I decided to distract you from the fact that maybe this isn't the most natural assortment of labels by adding some hearts everywhere. So I took some of those chipboard hearts that came in the kit, as well as some of the puffy little tiny hearts that also came in the kit. I'm going to add one more here. I'm kind of really going at it with the hearts here because I love them. And I think that they're doing a pretty good job of breaking up some of the lines on the labels. There we go. And that's just a picture of our fireplace mantle because we received a lot of those laser cut wood ornaments this year. We received 5 of them. And so we decided to display them all in one place there. Now, this is a stamp that Annabelle, she's our international student of whom I spoke earlier, her mom sent me our whole family, a little care package, and it had a birthday present in there for me because I recently turned 50, and it included these 2 really cute stamps as well as a set of markers that I love. And this cat is so adorable. It might be my favorite cat stamp that I have because it's a cat, but it looks like it's made out of like shaker knit. It's like a shaker knit sweater cat. It's adorable with little button eyes. It's so unique. I just love it. So I stamped that cat above this cat related meme. And then I also grabbed a sentiment that says, "Let's get cozy." That was from the December stamp set that came in the Studio Calico kit. And now just to accentuate that cozy theme, I'm going to put stitching all around the edges of this instead of outlining it. And that just gives the card a little bit more of a finished look. And now let's work on this one. So this is the top part of that insert, the top card. And I have this really beautiful card with all the trees on it. I adore it. I can't remember which kit it came in. It might have been in the Paper Person kit. So I remembered I have this movie stamp set, and I thought I might want to put a movie stamp on that other card where we're watching a movie, but I decided not to. And just looking through some of these cards, trying to get some ideas of what I can do with this card. I know I want this tree card to be the base, but I wasn't sure what else I wanted to do with this. So I have this Allie Edwards card from it must be from the December kit. It says December highs and December lows. So I'm going to mat it on another Allie Edwards card from that same kit. This is a 3x4 card with little marks or stars all over it. It's really cute. And that's going to be basically like an insert with a little bit of journaling on it. So after I've finished taking a few bites there, I'm going to write down just a little bullet list of what I might consider to be December highs. So I'll just glue it in the middle there first using my Tombow adhesive. And I'm just going to put points. And what I put were pear and brie croissants, seeing all the fam in New Glasgow, Christmas music, and then the last one is light snowfall. And I underlined light because I don't really like a whole lot of snow. And we had the lightest snow this year of any Christmas I can ever remember. It basically didn't accumulate. It snowed in the air, but it didn't accumulate at all. So we had a very brown Christmas this year, which is okay. I'm not complaining. It's better than being snowed in someplace. I know a lot of people were stuck in different places of Canada and the United States, and we're lucky. I mean, we don't travel for Christmas anyways, but we're lucky that that stuff didn't affect us this year. So I'm not going to complain about the weather. Now, this is one of Liv's Be Reals, which I sometimes go in and screenshot so that I can scrapbook their moments that I'm not there. And this is her on her break at work, and I love documenting work. So I have this little die cut piece from the Studio Calico die cuts that came in the December kit, but it's a little bit too big for my purposes. So I'm going to trim it down and do a little bit of surgery on it. I think I zoom in so that you can see it better, or maybe not. First, I'm going to color in this beautiful stamp. It says work, and it's from the work from home stamp set from Everyday Explorers. I can't remember the exact name of it. It might be just called Work from Home. And this is a Zig Clean Color Real Brush Marker, just in a light blue color. I don't know what color it is. I just chose it based on what I thought might match what's already on the page. So I like the little dots at the top and the bottom of this. So I just cut it and then I layered it upon itself so that I still had the dots on the top and on the bottom. And now I'm just going to trim it down a little bit so it doesn't cover up so much of the photo. And oh, I'm so sorry that I didn't zoom out, but I hope that I zoom out soon or figure out what I'm doing. I also trimmed down some of those dots on the top and the bottom of that just to make that embellishment really small so that it doesn't cover up too much of the photo, because my whole purpose of putting this photo was to capture the environment at work for her. And so if I cover it all up with embellishments, that kind of defeats the purpose. I'm going to use one of these stamps from the Studio Calico 3x4 inch stamps that I don't like the quality of, but I'm going to just do a bit of tone on tone stamping here on the red heart, just put a little band of dots. And I'm going to do the same on whichever arrow I end up using. I'm going to pick the pink one, but I was wanting maybe something blue, but I couldn't find, the blue ones weren't the right shape. So I'm going to put those dots also on the front and on the back of the arrow as well, just to add a little bit of interest to those embellishments. And I think I hold up the card when I'm done so that you can see what it actually looks like. So let's get our Tombow Mono Multi adhesive. It's my favorite adhesive. It's so super strong. So we'll put the heart right there, layered with the work embellishment. And then, oops, there's just a little bit of paper showing on the back side of that chipboard arrow. And then the arrow just points to her face. And I'll add another little heart there just to kind of make it a threesome. And there we go. So my insert is complete. Now I'm working on that page that's behind the insert, so that half of the page that you can see when the insert is laying where it is. And the top 4x6 card is this photo. And I would love to put this small moments of joy stamp in the background here. It's the perfect size and shape to just fit right beside Fee's face and shoulder. But I had to run down to my scrap area to grab. First, I grabbed gold embossing powder, and then I took off again and went back downstairs to get silver. And I'm going to end up using white, actually. So I keep these coffee filters in my scrap room in my embossing drawer just to capture the powder. And I decided to use my Misty tool because I wasn't sure if I'd be good at getting this stamped in there right. I'm so glad I used it because I did not do a good job of this. I don't know what went wrong, but something went very wrong. So I'm using my VersaFine ink pad here, and it looks like it's stamped fine and it feels juicy and all, but watch what happens when I add the embossing powder to it. Now I have embossed on photos before and it usually works, but I don't know exactly what happened here, but it just was not, the embossing powder was not sticking to the card at all. So what I decided to do was to heat it up and try to, like if you melt it and then immediately pour more on, sometimes it'll stick, but that didn't work either. So I'm going to have to actually re-stamp it. So I'm going to just make sure that any little bits that are left on there are actually melted and turned into like a hard plastic before I add more ink to it. But I put it back in my Misty tool, so I'm so glad that I used that. And this time I really pressed hard and tried to get as much glue on there as I could. And as you can see, it did a much, much better job. Still not perfect, it's still not as great. The only thing I can think of is that about a year ago, I switched from matte photos to glossy photos. So maybe the difference is the glossy photo? I don't know though. So as I'm heating this, my photo is doing all sorts of wonderful things. It is reacting to the heat and not in a good way, but you can't really see it. It's a little bit bubbly under where I did the heating, but as you can see, like from this distance, you can't really see it. There's one small crack in it. It looks like there's a cat hair on it, but it's not. It's a little crack in the photo. So whenever you're embossing and using heat and doing these sorts of things, especially, I don't do these things anymore very often. There was a time when I knew exactly how all of my supplies interacted with all my other supplies because I just scrapbooked so often and was doing all these techniques so often. But if you don't do them all that often, it's worth trying on a scrap or a photo that you don't care about. For me, I always know that I have my printer right here and I could always reprint something if I ruin it. So I'm never too worried about ruining things. I'd rather just try and see how it goes. I could always reprint the photo if I wanted to, but I'm also not opposed to just leaving something that's not perfect in my project as I did with that photo. So it looks okay, and I think you'll see it in the close-ups at the end. Meanwhile, this little card was pretty easy to do. I just took that 3x4 photo, added some labels and a sticker, and my journaling says, "Silly Adam, trying on Liv's sweater. It says that crop suits you," because it's a super short belly shirt. So now this card says "stuck indoors," and I just put this tag on there. I really liked the tone on tone look. It picks up on the tone print on the title of it. It says "stuck indoors and loving it." and then adding that star wood veneer. That's an old Allie Edwards item from a kit. I think that it just picks up on the printing that was already on the card. And this card is going to have a real minimalist look to it. Sometimes my project life is quite cluttered with lots of captions and writing and photos and stuff. So whenever I have a chance to do something and leave some space to breathe around something, I like to do that. My journaling here says, I don't really need a reason to stay inside, but the holiday season gives me lots. From baking to wrapping, Christmas movies, to board games, staying inside and being cozy in our oodies is a fave for all of us. Plus, going outside for a walk gives us reason to warm up at the fireplace. I am underlining that, and I did use my hot off the press journaling template to make sure that those lines were straight. So I just went back and erased any of the pencil lines that were showing. And then that other card with the slippers, I'm just going to leave as it is. So once you flip that insert, here's what the back side will look like. So now I'm basically designing the parts of this spread that were covered by the insert. So the underneath part of the insert and the back of the insert. So here I have this card that says Warm Wishes, and I'm going to combine it with that 4x6 photo in the bottom, I guess bottom center of the overall layout. So I disappeared for a moment because I ran over to the other side of my scrap room. My room is a disaster, so I had to kind of climb and step carefully over and around things to get to where I might keep my punches. And I knew that I had these 2 decorative punches from Stampin' Up. They're fairly old. I don't know if you can still get them, but the one I'm going to use here is called Decorative Label, and I will often use this punch this way. So the other one, the top note shape is just too small for the purpose of this, but oh darn it. I hope that I move my camera so that you can see, but I'm using the decorative label punch, and I'm just lining it up so that I can get that edge on one edge of this so that it looks like a bit like a die cut flag or something. And I like that. You could also use a border punch to do this, or you could hand cut it. You could make it into a little flag or something. But I just thought that this looked kind of festive. I don't mind my Christmas pages being a little bit fancier. And since I already had that blender out and it already had pink ink on it, I thought, let's just do the edges of this as well. And that keeps me from needing to outline it, which is nice. I have a feeling that I might be inking more edges in my future. I really liked that. So this is a filler card, and I just thought it might be cute to complete the little puzzle and just pop it into a card, a pocket just as it is. So here's our car selfie. We often take these. If you follow my channel, you've probably seen a lot of these. I'm going to put one of these label stickers, and I'd like to layer 2 of them. So I grabbed a circle one as well as a rectangle one. Sorry, I'm a little bit too zoomed in there. It's been a while since I've made a process video, so I'm a little out of practice here. Forgive me. I thought about adding a third and thought, no, that's a little bit overkill. So let's just go with what we have here. I'm using my roller date stamp. I love this roller date stamp. My friend Diane sent me this, and I adore it. I'm just putting the date, which was December 24th. So it was Christmas Eve. And instead of calling it a car selfie, I'm calling it a car ussie, which is a shout out to Ted Lasso, which we watch as a family. So that's Scott and I have already watched it, I think twice. Scott watched it twice. I watched it once and a half. And now the girls are watching it for the first time. And we're all watching it together. So it's, I guess, Scott's 3rd time and my 2nd or 3rd. Just embellishing around this title with some of these puffy stickers from the Studio Calico Traveler's Notebook Kit. Love that. And now I have two 3x4 photos of Sophie making beignets. And this is a holiday tradition for her that I definitely want to make sure that I document. I don't know if I documented it last year, but she does do it every year. And so I'm just cutting a scrap piece of paper from my stash here. This is something from a kit that was a 6x8. It's actually 6x8 1/4. And so I just cut it down to 3x8 1/4, and then I scored it at the 4-inch mark so that it's basically a little foldable tent that you can stick part of it inside of the pocket and have the other part sticking out of the pocket as a lift the flap type of a deal. This is my favorite way to do an insert, like a flippy insert. And I like these better than the flippity flaps because the flippity flaps, those photo flips by Snap, they do sometimes pull off because you're basically gluing plastic to plastic, and it's not it doesn't come off super easily, but it's also, I just prefer this way. I used an Everyday Explorer stamp set there to stamp out holiday tradition, and the arrow is pointing at the plate of, these are beignets before they have risen and been fried, and I had no idea how to spell beignets at all, so I needed to look it up, and even Googling it, I couldn't find it. I wasn't spelling it close enough to even have it come up. So I actually had to leave the room and go ask Scott how to spell it because I knew that he had looked it up recently. So that's what I'm gone to do. So this is what I'm working on right now, is the outside of this flap that I'm making. And I'm going to use these Kelly Perky from the Paper Person kit that I get every month. I'm going to use these really beautiful puffy letter stickers, and they look like gingerbreads to me. So I think that they're perfect for baking related titles. So I'm going to spell out the word beignet, and I think that even plural is still just with a T. I'm not exactly sure though. Anyhow, it fits better with just the T, so that's what I went with. But when I talk about it on the inside, I think I put an S on it. So now you flip it up and you have the inside photo on the bottom, but I need to put something on the top here. And I'm just looking for something that maybe I could stamp. And I know I have this baking holiday stamp set from Kelly Perky, I believe. Yeah, from Paper Person. I'll tell you the name of it because I have it right here. It's called Baking, and it's from Paper Person. And it must be just the basic stamp set that comes with the kit. I rarely buy the add-ons, so usually if I have a stamp set, it's because it came in a kit. So I put this one that says Baked with Love, and it has this cute little oven. And I'm just going to grab my Crayola markers, and I just filled in the window, and then I grabbed my very, very light clean color real brush zig marker to do the outside of the oven in just a lighter shade of gray. And I am going to add some journaling lines, but not too many because I just need to say a few things about this, and then I'll leave the top part mostly empty and just do a little bit of embellishing on it. My journaling here says, Sophie makes Princess Tiana's beignets every year, or each year, for her friends and family. So yummy. And then I will also underline that, and then I'll probably come back with my eraser and get rid of any extra lines that show. No, I didn't need to. So now I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do with that top part. I would love, if I had that already die cut out, I don't want to fussy cut it, but I would love that snowflake up there. But since I can't find something obvious to put there, what I think I'll do is just put a little scene here. I love these skis and we don't ski, so I thought this would be a nice place to use some of those ski stickers. Just a generic little winter scene with the dog and the hearts and the skis and the little bough of holly or whatever that foliage is up at the top. So I took a little bit of a break and I was doing something else, and I kept coming back to the thought of this title card that says December, and it felt like it needed some snow accumulated on top of the letters here just to make it look like, because see how in the background it's all sparkled with snow? It looks, they're not sparkles, they're just little dots, but it just looks like snow is falling in the scene. And if snow was falling, then it would be accumulating on the word December. Sorry that I'm not in frame. Anyhow, let me tell you about this stickles adventure that I'm on. So I have these stickles called ice stickles, and the color is called crystal ice, and they're in the larger container. And I love them because they dry really chunky, like chunky snow. And I have them, they're over there on the right. Originally, I was using this smaller bottle of stickles, just regular stickles, in the color called icicle, and that was too watery, and the glitter in it was not quite chunky enough. I thought that I had bought the icicle as a replacement for the ice stickles, but it turns out they are not going to be a good replacement. So if you know of anything that I could use to replace ice stickles, or if you know where I can buy ice stickles, particularly in the crystal ice, I am running out. I'm down to my last probably quarter of an inch of that product, and I love it, and I would love to have more. So leave me a comment if you know where I can get ice stickles or anything that will dry to look like crusty snow. So that's set aside to dry, and meanwhile I have to do the back side of this insert. So the top card here is a 4x6, and I want to just document this Be Real. I don't even really need to say anything about it. It's just a silly snapshot of the inside of the car. I'm using a combination of sassafras letter stickers that I love that are in my stash, and also a set of rubber letter stickers that could be from Freckled Fawn. They could be from Freckled Fawn. They could also be from the Hip Kit Club. And I thought they were yellow until I put them beside this. It's like a yellowy, limey green color. And they look like they look greenish enough for me. So I was going to outline, and then I decided to do a bit of a drop shadow on them just to make them look a little bit more playful. So what I'm doing is I'm outlining, and then I'm going back and I'm thickening the outline on the bottom and on the right side. I'm just doing that as consistently as I can so that it looks like there's a shadow. And it doesn't matter where you put your shadow as long as you put it on two adjacent sides. So either the right and the bottom, or the right and the top, or the left and the bottom, or the left and the top. They have to be side by side, and doing it consistently helps make it look better. So just once you pick two sides, just do it for the whole title. And I don't do this perfectly. There are parts where it's too thick and parts where it's not thick enough, but that's okay because I'm looking for a bit of a playful look here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And what this does is it helps to embolden the letters so that you can read them a bit better, because they were really hard to read on that bold background. And it also just gives it more of a playful and handmade look to it, because you can tell that I did that outlining. So now that I've done most of it, I'm just going back and I'm filling in any places that I missed. If I forgot to do a bottom or a right side or something, I'm just filling in and thickening up certain parts to make it look a little bit more even. And I really like how that looks. I think it looks pretty cool. I don't do that kind of a thing very often, but I feel like it might be something I do more of moving forward. There's a couple things I feel like I'm just kind of cycling more around to, that maybe I stopped doing for a while and now I want to start again. I'm adding this little sprig of festive foliage there to just finish off that card. And now I have another 4x6 on this insert, which is this photo right here. And I don't need to do too much to this photo. It's just a snapshot of Fee's kitchen with everybody, not everybody, but a bunch of people standing around. I guess I could have made a list of everybody who was present, especially since not everybody is in that photo. But anyhow, this is what I wrote. I said, Christmas Eve get together at Fee and Brian's house. And that's that little piece that I cut off earlier, and I put the blue part with the snowflake on the movie photo. And this is the lines that were underneath of that. So I just added a couple of puffy stickers there to decorate it. And that's all I'm going to do with that one. The photo has a lot going on, so I don't really want to do too much adding to it. Now, this is a photo that I took. My sister and I, sometimes we just like take photos of where we are. It's almost like a Be Real, but without the app. We're just kind of like, what you doing? And we just kind of take a photo of ourselves and send it immediately to each other. And we always like make silly faces and stuff like that. So I wanted to, I had my own because I had taken it, but I didn't have hers. So I just went into our text thread and downloaded the picture of her so that I could do a little picture in picture here and document our sister shenanigans, is what she calls it. She sends me a picture and says, "Sister shenanigans," and then I take a picture too. She always does the initiating because she's more, I don't know, she's more fun than I am. I don't know. So I just wrote "Sister shenanigans" and I just inset her photo into the overall photo there. So there, it looks like we're done, and I just keep checking on that December card to see if it's dry. It's not dry yet, but I am going to go ahead and put all of these cards into their pockets. This is one of my favorite parts. You get to just kind of finish off anything. I find that as I put the cards into the pockets, sometimes I notice details are missing, or I might make last minute switches. In this case, my insert is just a cut down 12 by 12 design A Becky Higgins page protector, because I couldn't find, I do have the little half size inserts, but I just couldn't find my package of them. So I just cut down a 12 by 12 design to do my insert. So there we go. So my insert is in there. And now I'm just going to grab my album and start placing these. So this little guy has gotten away several times, so I'm just going to add some Tombow Mono Multi to that little piece of chipboard so that it doesn't escape again and move around in the pocket. So just putting everything into the pockets and making sure that everything works on the other side as well. So I've got some, like there's a little tab one that you pull out an extra photo, and I just want to make sure that that still comes out and that it doesn't pull the whole thing with it when it does come out. I find making anything that pulls out, you have to make it a little bit thinner than everything else so that it pulls out easily, and that way you don't have all three cards come out at once. And then there's my lift the flap one that I'm not sure if I described that well when I was making it. So hopefully now you understand how it works if you didn't know what I was saying before. And then this is the other way of doing a lift the flap, which is using the photo flips from Snap. And there's a bunch of other companies that make those too. And every time I do a page, I always kind of go back a couple of pages and just kind of get a sense of the flow of the overall album, see how it's going, how the color schemes go. Sometimes I've missed putting a flap or like a tab on one of my lift the flaps or whatever, or things are coming apart. It just gives me a chance to check and make sure that everything is still working well in my album. I have this Triforce 50 that I want to use somewhere. It's made out of fondant, but I think I want to put it in a scrapbook anyways. Jen assures me that as long as it stays dry, it should be okay. But anyhow, we'll see. I might put it in plastic and just stick it in a pocket somewhere. So there's how that embossing turned out. Not the greatest, but also not the worst. And I do like that you can see it and read it, and it looks generally okay. So here's where my next spread will go. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss that, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to all my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream and behind-the-scenes videos and a bunch of other things. So thank you to all of those folks, and also thanks to you for watching all the way to the end. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and until next time, have a really great scrappy week.